This week, some new RV technology, a rough day for Winnebago, and our friends over at Blue Ox are here to talk about flat towing a vehicle behind your RV. This is RV Miles. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth-wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit BlueOx.com for more information. The RV lifestyle is about community, and the RV community is at the heart of RV Life. RV Life recently celebrated the 1 millionth trip planned with RV Life Trip Wizard, their excellent trip planning tool for RVers, featuring all the trusted reviews, pictures, and tips from their RV Life campground site. RV Life also features several blog sites and over 20 additional RVing forums to serve the RV community. All this experience and community feedback come together to help create a fantastic RV trip planner and mobile navigation tool collectively called RV Life Pro. RV Life has marked a milestone of over 3 billion miles traveled using RV Life Pro, counting both the planned RV trips and ad hoc navigation with the included RV Safe mobile app. Take 25% off RV Life Pro at the link in the description for this episode. Welcome to episode number 339 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two RVers who, along with our three boys, have been crisscrossing all over North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to national parks, travel destinations, and a whole lot more.
It has been absolutely beautiful here for the last many days. But sadly, we are winterized.
We are winterized.
We had one day, of course, we could de-winterize at any point. It's not a big deal. No. But we had one day where it was dropping well below freezing. I guess we could have went in and just turned the heat on or something for that night. But it was it was enough that we needed to winterize before we left town for Elkhart for an event we'll talk about in a second. But we got the winterization done, and no more camping for us for the winter, I guess.
No, I think we're done. I mean, this was our first real full season as normal RVers, I guess. I mean, we did our summer trip, we did our fall trip, and I think it felt good for us to say, okay, it's holidays are coming. Time to put Bexy to sleep, especially after homecoming, which I think was such a great way to end our camping season. We had such a great time at homecoming. Of course, if you follow us on social media, you've seen all of the posts that we've been putting out about it. But even now, we're a couple weeks removed from it, and I still find myself thinking back on it and how much fun we had.
Yeah, we're going to do a recap and sort of talk about next year a little bit over on the Detour episode we do for Mile Marker members. If you're interested in becoming a Mile Marker member for $7 a month or $70 a year, you get some extra podcasts and monthly live streams and things like that.
And discounts to homecoming. Let us not forget that. In fact, homecoming is September 25th through the 28th of 2025 next year. We scheduled it listening to some of the feedback from all of you about Balloon Fiesta and how that's a really hard trek to hit homecoming or go to the Balloon Fiesta and then come out here to Amana, Iowa. So we have scheduled it before, about 2 weeks before the Balloon Fiesta.
A little warmer too.
A little bit warmer.
For people that are not afraid of being in Iowa in September.
It was gorgeous though in Iowa in October. It was perfect.
But I think people do get, when they start planning their travels, it could not be. Fair. So they start thinking about, I want to be south, and that's fair. It probably won't be like that the following year though. So if this is the year that you want to come, I promise we're not going to make you hear about homecoming every single week from now until then, by the way.
But we're still riding the high of it.
We want to give you the dates of it for this year. But after we winterized, we headed up to Elkhart, Indiana, where we went to an event for a company called Excel. They are a component manufacturer of RVs. So you might have heard of some of the biggest ones like Lippert and Dometic, and Excel is right in with them, and they have brands that you might have heard of, like MCD Shades, and they have
Coleman Mach.
Yeah, Coleman Mach
Maybe
air
you've heard of
conditioners. So we got to see a lot of new stuff coming from them, especially Coleman Mach. They've got some new air conditioners, including one that says they say will rival some of the new 18K air conditioners out there. And they have a really cool new Max Air fan that I liked.
Highlight of the show for me was this fan.
I talked about all these things on the last news video roundup, if you want to check that out, by the way. But this was a typical RV vent fan, but the fan itself, you could pop down and articulate and point it different directions. So if you wanted to, if you got one over your bed and you wanted to point it at your faces while you're sleeping or something like that, you have that option. So that was pretty fun. We got to see a lot of cool new stuff, a lot of cool new, a lot of cool kitchen appliances. I thought they had a great induction / propane cooktop, which I have always wanted, like to have sort of the best of both worlds.
Yes.
And they had a wine fridge that is
best in show.
The tiniest little wine fridge. It's only like a 6-bottle wine fridge. So it's really, it's all, obviously it's about the width of a wine bottle and only so tall. So I thought that would be really cool to have in an RV, because you don't need like a full wine fridge in an RV, right? You're not going to carry like 25 bottles.
They don't last that long. They don't last that long in our RV. They're perfect. This little 6-bottle wine fridge is perfect for all of our harvest host stops that we will be going on as we head out on the road next summer. Because we're not ready to quite talk about it yet, but we have got an idea of what summer 2025 is going to look for us.
And potentially a new RV that we'll talk about in the future.
We're not going to talk about that yet.
That all pans out.
We can tease it, but we're not going to talk about it yet. We're not ready. It feels big. That feels like a big talk. So we'll hold on to that for a little bit longer, but it is coming. So just stay tuned. We'll have a little bit more detail on what our new rig is going to be all about, what our travels in 2025 are going to look like, and really how we can all connect with one another in 2025 out on the road, because we have some ways too that we would like to invite you to join us at the campground. So I think as we get a little bit closer to the end of the year, we'll be able to chat further about those things. But, going up to Elkhart the way that we did for this event is really why we settled here, why we're building the Mile Zero studio here in Rock Island, Illinois. It allowed us, this event was, we went up the night before. We went to the event that morning. We had a few other meetings that we took care of, and then we got back on the road and we came home. So we were gone for one night. The kids stayed with their grandparents, and it allowed us to really check off a lot of work things. And also it just helps to be in person with people. It really, we learn so much more when we're face to face with people. We could
probably do like some same day stuff up there if the RV industry wasn't insistent on starting everything at the crack of dawn.
Oh my gosh.
If you're not aware, like some of the plants, a lot of the plants, they're done at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They are like closed.
We showed up for a meeting at like 1:30, I think it was, when we got there.
Nobody there.
It was like a ghost town. And I was like, where is everyone? Which was kind of cool because, then we walked through the factory and it was quiet and there was nothing going on in there. And you kind of see what it looks like when, everything gets put to bed for the night. But it was 1:30, which to us also felt like 12:30 because they're Eastern Standard Time.
Central.
So it's just this very, if you are not a morning person, this is not the industry for you. I mean, I know when we did that power breakfast that they have every year in May, that thing started at I think they were like 6:45 a.m. or something. They were like welcoming you in for coffee.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just hand me a whole pot. It's 6:45 in the morning.
Today on the show, we've got Alex Walker from Blue Ox. Blue Ox has been a great sponsor of ours for a very long time. And he's here to talk about something that we don't have a lot of experience in. We want to share all the aspects of RVing out there about towing a vehicle behind your motorhome. Now, we did that with our bus conversion with a dolly, you have like 2 wheels up on a dolly and 2 wheels down. But he's here to talk about flat towing, 4-wheel down towing, dinghy towing, all the different things that it can be called. But towing behind a motorhome with all 4 wheels touching the ground
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why is it called dinghy towing?
I think it's like a dinghy is like, I think that's a nautical term for like
That's
a
what
little boat that you tow behind you.
Yeah, that's
So it's like, it's like your little thing
so
you
it's
tow
like
behind. It's when
your big RV's towing your little RV, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
like-
really your little RV. It's
no,
your
but it's
car.
like towing something, you know, like in a boat, the reason you're towing a dinghy is because you've got this big boat, but then you've got the little thing
You
to
have your super
get in
yacht.
and get it around, to
Right.
get in the marina and get around. And
Well,
that's what the car is for you. If you've got your big boat of a motorhome, and then you've got your car to get around the national parks and all that sort of
So
stuff.
do you think
I
on
don't know, I'm
super
assuming.
yachts they call their helicopters dinghies?
Well,
Like when they got to take their helicopter into the mainland
No.
because that's the only way they can
the
get.
chopper.
That's the getting the chopper.
Before we get to that interview, though, I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about Winnebago and Grand Design. You know, there's been all this stuff going on this year about this whole frame flex, frame failure controversy with Grand Design fifth wheels. That perhaps there are a lot of issues with some of these fifth wheels. They're having some frame problems. And a lot of the speculation has been just that, speculation, right? There's a lot of thoughts that people have. There are course owners, I've talked about this on several videos, we've talked about it on the podcast several times, that have been having issues.
Well, we're throwing into the flame.
It's hard to say flame flex,
frame flex
failure
frenzy.
Yeah.
Into the triple F, we're throwing a class action lawsuit too, right?
Yeah,
like that
yeah, and I
just
covered
popped
that
up. You covered that on
the news a little bit. Perhaps, like
or
here's the deal.
speculation of a class action lawsuit.
Lawyers investigating whether they should have a class action.
There's a lot of speculation. Let's just leave it at that. But the thing that's not speculation would be what you were a part of this morning.
Yeah. So today so Grand Design is owned by Winnebago. Winnebago had their quarterly earnings report. Winnebago is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. They are they've often been considered like a bellwether stock. So the stock market industry analysts look at a company like Winnebago that sells a luxury item that costs a lot to buy as an indicator of the future of the economy, right? If sales of motorhomes are down, which they are, Wall Street is generally considered that as a bad sign for the future. Now, that's all been upended by the pandemic. There's a real big cyclical thing going on. I don't think you can pay attention to that. I don't think Wall Street is using Winnebago, especially on their own, as an example of this anymore. But
my head is spinning. This is why I was not on this phone call. My head is spinning.
Today, though, Winnebago released their quarterly report, which was also the end of their fiscal year for fiscal year 2024. And they missed their projected earnings by a lot. And
by how much, Jason?
A lot. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, and I didn't write it down on my show notes here, but a lot. And I want to say revenue is down. Like, I'm not even gonna say. I'll put it on the screen. They missed by a lot, and their stock dropped over 10% today. So it was a down day for the market in general. But Winnebago stock dropping that much also dropped Thor stock a little bit. You know,
it did.
the other RV industry stocks.
I think Camping World stock went down a little bit today too.
None of them looked very good on the results that Winnebago put out there. Winnebago has been having a bit of a tough time recently, but
they're having a moment.
The real, this is a time though. As much as we all, look at this and see all the ins and outs of the RV industry, those of us that are interested in that, this is a time though that it's great for buyers though, if you are especially somebody looking for a motorhome, because the motorhomes are still overstocked on dealer lots. Towables, not so much. Motorhomes are overstocked on dealer lots, and they literally called it in the investor call today a destocking period where they're trying to move stuff off of dealer lots right now on the motorhome front because people just aren't buying motorhomes that much right now.
So you could head down to Crazy Carl's right now and get a good deal. Is that what you're saying?
I am. But the interesting thing that came out of this to me, though, is that, you know, for all this talk about potential issues with Grand Design, what Winnebago reported was that their warranty costs for Grand Design for this year were actually about the same as they were last year. What wasn't the same was Winnebago towables. So Winnebago has two towable lines. They have Winnebago towables and they have Grand Design towables. And it turns out they said on this conference call, they've been having quality issues with Winnebago towables, and their warranty costs at Winnebago towables are up, and that they think that Winnebago towables are underperforming where they should be in terms of market share, that they should be able to be selling better. I mean, it's a historic brand, right? They're known for motorhomes, of course, but they should be doing better than the 1.5% market share that Winnebago towables have right now, is their thought. So what they've done, and there's been a lot of speculation about why they've done this by a lot of the people that, are in some of these Grand Design groups where they've had some issues and they're concerned about their units, or they've got the runaround from dealers, all that sort of stuff, about a big move that happened at Grand Design in the last week or so, 2 weeks or so. Don Clark, who was one of the founders of Grand Design and went with Grand Design to Winnebago. He's been a leader in the RV industry for a very long time now. He has been running Grand Design, and they have appointed him now as additionally the head of all towables under Winnebago. So he's going to cover Winnebago towables while still being the president of Grand Design. And some people have theorized that, this is a way to push him out of Grand Design because of all the issues they've had. But that's not what Winnebago says. What Winnebago says is Grand Design has been performing very well. Whether you feel like they've not been performing to the customer's needs or not, to the owners, they've been performing very well, at least according to them. And what they're hoping Don Clark will do is actually boost Winnebago towable profitability and market share up to match Grand Design, because maybe not match Grand Design, but at least compete a little bit more in the market, because they really feel to be strong that Winnebago needs to have two solid towable lines. They need to have the Winnebago and the Grand Design competing in the marketplace.
I mean, look, I don't have access to Don Clark's contract. I don't know what the man has negotiated with Winnebago, but my thoughts are, as if they were trying to bump him out, they'd just pull a Chapek and they just tell him, you're out, right? We're not happy. Why move him to another line? Wouldn't you take his other job away? All you're doing is adding more to his plate.
Some people are suspecting it's kind of moving him into a more of an emeritus position, right? Where it's like not direct control anymore, and that they move somebody else in later, and it's a save face thing. It doesn't sound like that's true.
No, it sounds like they're bringing him over to this other division to help resurrect it, to save it from itself, because it's underperforming. Unless they want to send someone over there they are trying to get rid of, why would you send them to the line that's not making money unless you want to blame them for that?
I do want to caution folks, though, that underperforming means not making enough money. Could mean that they're doing too well for customers. It could mean they're making too good of a product and they're spending too much warranty and they're spending more on warranty. They're doing more fixes than they should, and they need somebody to come in here and cut back on some of that stuff. So it's not always a good thing. There's always this argument that Winnebago is, or Grand Design or whoever is screwing over so many customers.
So that's
going to cause them to fail. But actually, that oftentimes that causes a business to be more profitable, right? That causes a business to do better in those circumstances. And that's why they do it, right? They're cost-cutting measures to cheap out on construction and cheap out on warranty work. And I'm not saying any of this is happening.
Yeah, can we get a big giant allegedly flashing on the screen right now?
I don't even want to allege
you know,
it. It's not. It's just that it's a complicated industry. There's complicated things happen. Another complication here, though, is that Don Clark also sold a large chunk of Winnebago stock a few weeks ago, which is interesting.
He sold his?
Yes.
Well, probably because he's moving over there. And he doesn't want to be...
he's already a Winnebago employee.
I know, but now he's going to take over a Winnebago line directly. I mean,
he's paid in Winnebago stock. It's not like, I mean, no, seriously. It's part of his compensation
paid in Winnebago
package.
cash. It's like Kohl's cash, except...
But I do there, you know, that was part of a lot of people's speculation around this. But I think what's happening there really is they're trying to get that Winnebago towable line to perform better. And I that makes sense to me because I have often felt that Winnebago towables, they're not bad or anything. They're, you know, but they're just not hitting. They're just not speaking to customers as much as their motorhomes might do.
Well, I do love a good rumor mill, and the RV industry is so very good at the rumor mill. So going to sit back. We're going to watch how this one plays out for a little bit. Of course, we'll continue to share any actual news that comes up, and maybe from time to time, some speculations that are happening in, I mean, who would have thought that RV Facebook groups would be where you go to pop the popcorn and get people to spill the tea? Like, that is not the, like, that is not the area that I would have thought that's where all it happens, but that is where it happens.
You've done the research, you read the reviews, you've searched the internet, you found the perfect product for you. You found that part you need, you found that accessory you need for your RV. But if you don't have the time, the right tools, or you just don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, you need to find a trusted partner to install it. Go to eTrailer.com and use their installer locator feature to find that trusted installer in your area. Once you find the product you're looking for, all you need to do is click the schedule and installation button, and eTrailer will provide you with a list of installers near you that have the experience installing the product you're looking for. The list will include bios, reviews, and photos of each installer on the list, and you can even see how many times they've installed that type of product for eTrailer neighbors. So when you need to find that trusted RV part or component installer quickly, visit eTrailer.com and use their installer locator to schedule your install today. Harvest Host is a membership that allows RVers to take a rest from the road and enjoy unlimited overnight stays at over 5,100 unique locations in North America, like breweries, farms, attractions, wineries, and much more. Easily plan and book your next RV trip and enjoy over $1,500 in exclusive member benefits by joining Harvest Host. Get 15% off your first year of membership with the code MILES. That's MILES. Go to harvesthost.com to become a Harvest Host member today. All right, let's talk about motorhomes, shall we?
Speaking of motorhomes, let's talk about motorhomes.
All right, here's my interview with Alex from Blue Ox.
Well, if you own a motorhome, or if you're thinking about owning a motorhome, you might be thinking about wanting to have an additional vehicle with you that you can tool around town in wherever you go. And some people will drive one along with them. Some people will tow one behind them. And there are a lot of considerations to think about if you're going to consider towing a vehicle behind a motorhome. So today I have our friend Alex Walker from Blue Ox. Blue Ox is our official towing supplier. You've heard their ads on our show. They've been a big supporter of RV Miles for a long time. And Alex is here to talk about towing a vehicle behind a motorhome with all four wheels down. Alex, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk about some flat towing and options for, all of your viewers and, our great customers and partners.
So let's talk about that. First of all, flat towing, or some people call it towing four down or dinghy towing. Essentially, we're talking about towing a vehicle without the assistance of a trailer of some sort. What is the advantage of towing a vehicle that way?
Yeah, there's a few unique advantages to it. As most people will know, number one is you have the ability to just hook and unhook your vehicle very easily and quickly. When you have a trailer or a dolly involved, there's a little bit extra involved with doing that. The other piece of it is when you go into a campground, there are a lot of campsites that don't allow you to bring a trailer or a dolly to your actual site. So you have to unhook and hook in like the parking lot. And a lot of those parking lots aren't very level, so it makes it difficult. But it gives you the freedom to, hook and unhook your vehicle very quickly. And we want to make it as easy as possible with our products and everybody that makes these types of products to get there. You want to get unhooked. You can get where you need to go quickly when you get to the campground.
So it sounds pretty simple, like it's probably the best way to tow a vehicle, but not all vehicles can be towed with all four wheels down, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The best thing is to always consult your owner's manual before, going through with the towing procedures. There's a lot of variables to it with different transmissions, whether it be automatic or manual, or some of these electric or hybrid vehicles may or may not be able to be flat towed. Your owner's manual is going to be, the best option because a certain vehicle may be able to be flat towed with a specific transmission, and that exact same vehicle with a different transmission may not be able to be, or may need modification. So it's important to just look that up in your owner's manual before, you select a vehicle that you're going to flat tow.
Is it the case that fewer and fewer vehicles are being able to be flat towed?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's fewer and fewer. What we're seeing is with a lot more electric vehicles, those are most likely not going to be able to be flat towed. I wouldn't say that there's less. There's just a little bit more to the procedure to get the transfer cases into neutral, versus, with Jeeps or, back in the day, you could just kind of throw something in neutral and drive down the road. With all the different electronics that these vehicles have, you have to disable different systems. So it may add a few steps to the process, but there's still a lot of vehicles out there that are able to be flat towed.
So I know like some of them, it can be a different process with different vehicles. Some of them, you have to have the key in the accessory position. Some of them, you just put the transfer case in neutral. Some of them, there's this complicated process of like turning the key on and off. There's like different considerations, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it really has to do with electronics. And, with some vehicles, you have to disconnect the battery in order to flat tow. So, the more electronics they put in, the more things you're going to have to go through. But we make plenty of products and accessories to make that as easy as possible for the customer.
So obviously, if you already own a vehicle, it's, you want to look up in your owner's manual if you can do it. But what if you're looking to buy one? I know there used to be some resources for finding all the vehicles that had the capability to be towed four down. Are any resources out there like that anymore?
Not too much anymore. Good Sam usually does some type of a towing guide every year of those types of vehicles. It gives you a little bit of a starting point. What I would say, on our website is we have kind of our list. You can look through the different year makes and models. That's not going to be the go-to to know for sure that your vehicle can be flat towed, but that's at least going to get you that information. I mean, there's a lot of good options out there to be able to flat tow your vehicle. So, obviously what I'd recommend is, talking to people that do RV that have flat towed, maybe some different forums. They might give you good recommendations on the experiences that they've had. But I would always recommend going to the manual, maybe looking up what the procedures would look like on a vehicle that you are maybe leaning towards before you make that full decision.
So, and what about considerations on like wear on the vehicle? Obviously the tires are on the ground, but does it run the odometer up? Is there any concerns like that?
It really depends on the type of vehicle. If the odometer is electrical, it may run up, it may not. There are ways to, stop that in some cases. But again, it's just going to depend on that specific year, make, and model of the vehicle, which again will be in the owner's manual. It's hard to say when, they come out with a new trim package or make a change in the middle of a year. That could change on us too. So, always just consult those resources, the manufacturer of the vehicle. But with the odometer reading, it could go either way.
So it's not as simple as just hooking your vehicle up to your motorhome as you would be hooking up a trailer. There's a lot of stuff you got to do to the vehicle, right? So what are some of the things that we need to alter on the vehicle in order to make this work? What are some of the products that we need to buy, and what are some of the things we need to think about from the aspect of altering the vehicle to get this to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing on the vehicle itself, there's kind of two components to it. Number one is what we call the base plate. That's the piece that attaches to the front end of the vehicle on the frame that it is towed from. Those are all your make model for the most part specific, with some carryovers. We do our best to make them as hidden as possible. We feel like that's one of the benefits, is you can pull our tabs out. That way, when you're not towing, it doesn't look like you have a towing apparatus on the front. And we try to utilize as many factory holes as we can and try to do as minimal cutting on the front fascia as we possibly can, so you don't have to do a lot of modifying to it. The second piece of the car is going to be wiring. You have to have your taillights working with you as you tow it behind you. So there's multiple different wiring kits. I would always consult with the installer that you utilize on which wiring kit's going to be best for your specific situation. And so on the car side, those are the two main things. And then you'll have your tow bar, the bar that's going to actually tow and hook onto the receiver of the motorhome itself, that then hooks into the tabs of the base plate and tows forward. The other two smaller elements are, you have an electrical cable, which again is going to plug into the motorhome, that's going to operate the lights. It's also going to have some ability to, potentially charge a battery if you need to have that charged while you're driving. And then the other piece is a brake system. A brake system is in some capacity required in every state. We always recommend it outside of just the legal requirements, because, as you're braking going down the road, you want to have some force behind it stopping that vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to wear down the brakes and tires of your RV a lot faster. If you have something braking the car behind you, that's going to put a lot less stress on the tires and brakes of the RV, as well as the tires on that towed vehicle. So it's going to allow you to operate a little bit safer, stop safer, especially when you're going up and down grades. If you're getting into mountains, it's an adjustable piece, and that brake itself can be powered in a few different ways, whether it be through that 7 to 6 or whatever coiled cable you use, or off the battery power of the car. So those are the main elements to a flat tow package. So it seems like there's a lot of pieces to it, but at the end of the day, once like the base plate itself is installed and the wiring is installed, that's the most invasive and biggest piece. The rest of it's just hooking on the tow bar, which is nice and simple.
So that wiring kit, and that between the wiring kit and the brake controller, that's gonna operate your brake lights and your turn signals and all that sort of stuff on the back of the vehicle you're towing, so that those signals are back there for anybody, and for legal reasons, of course, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to either tap into the lines or a plug and play. It'll plug into the existing holes, or on some older model vehicles, it'll put an extra bulb in there that'll illuminate in those situations, so that you meet, the DOT regulations that are needed in order to tow a vehicle behind your motorhome.
And then what's the actual device that controls the braking? So is that something that actually presses on your brake pedal?
Yeah, ours is called a Patriot braking system, or it might be commonly referred to as a brake-in-the-box system. It sits on the floorboard of your driver's seat and hooks onto the pedal, so it can simulate like your normally would with your foot pushing on that brake pedal. The nice part about it is it can be adjusted. So, if it's braking too much, you can take it down. If it's braking too little, you can move it up, similar to what a brake controller would do. For people that are familiar with towing a trailer. It also has some different sensitivity settings as well. So it can kind of, if you're going up and down mountains, you're going to want to adjust how sensitive it is, because you don't want it to brake too much or too little in those situations. So it's an all-electric system, and it can actually simulate the force of your foot at the same angle that your foot would be pressing on the brake itself. So it's just like somebody's back there pressing that brake pedal as you're doing it up in the coach.
So all of this stuff you sell at blueox.com, and people could buy and DIY this, I suppose, if they're somebody that's really experienced in, working with automotive mechanics and stuff like that. But likely you're probably going to go somewhere to have this done. Are you going to an RV dealer? Where are you going?
We have a wide variety of installers. I always encourage people to start there, even if they're going to look at doing something themselves. If they're very well versed, as you said, Jason, it could potentially be done, but we always want to rely on the experts. On our website, we have a dealer locator. If you plug in, city, state, zip code, whatever it may be, it's going to show you the closest places there. And our team and our customer service is happy to make those recommendations and help out wherever is needed as well. So I recommend going to that, finding an installer that does this. They've done a lot of these over time. Most of them we've trained fairly extensively. So they're going to know kind of the ins and outs to be able to get it done very efficiently in the right way.
So talk to me though about then some of the considerations once you've had all this done and you're driving this vehicle down the road and you're towing it, you're bringing it to the campgrounds. Is there anything different than about towing a vehicle for down? Do you got to be worried about does the braking feel different? Do you got to be worried? I assume you have to be worried about turning, you're longer, all that sort of stuff. Can you back up?
Yeah, turn radius is a big thing. You know, obviously, anybody that's towed any type of trailer, you're going to lose a little bit of turn radius. Unless we made a tow bar that had, 6-8 foot long legs, which really isn't possible, you could have a wider turn radius. But something you just need to be cognizant of, and we say it especially when you're pulling into like a gas station to refuel, just being aware of your surroundings, doing some planning ahead. There's some apps out there on the GPS side that essentially like a trucker would use that can tell you better directions and places to stop. So I would definitely recommend that. You cannot back up with a tow bar. That's one important thing. They're not built for that. They're built for pull force. So it's important that, you get into a good flat spot when you're going to hook up. So if you're coming out of a campground or parking into a camp spot, I would scout that spot out to make sure you can get in a flat straight line before you go do it right there, or that if you can't on that site, go find a nice flat spot that you can unhook safely before you have to make any really sharp turns with it. I mean, obviously we're gonna allow you turn radius, and in a motorhome, especially a larger one, is gonna turn, not have a great quick turn radius, but it's something to definitely be cognizant of. We make our Ascent and Avail tow bars 2 inches longer than our Alpha 2 tow bar, to help with that turning radius piece as well. But it's definitely something to pay attention to and just be cognizant of the places that you're pulling into and stopping.
Is there, with the vehicle being so close to the back of the motorhome, are there concerns with things like your windshield and paint, rock chipping, stuff like that?
Yeah, there certainly could be. I mean, it's just like, driving behind a larger truck or a semi-trailer that can kick up rocks, different things. We make 2 different products that can help solve that issue. One's called our Car Guard. That's a kind of a plastic shield that would go in front and protect the windshield in the front of the vehicle from rock chips. That actually mounts to the tow bar itself, and just you can remove it on and off. We also have a mud flap system that can go on the back of the coach as well. So it's got full coverage with a mesh netting in between the 2 rubber flaps. So those are the 2 options that we have, and that certainly is a concern because that stuff can get kicked up. But those 2 products are designed, to prevent that as much as possible.
So obviously there's a lot of different products. There's different products that, even under your brand that you sell. Overall, what would you recommend somebody that's getting into RVing for the first time? They're buying a motorhome, they're going to tow a vehicle behind it. What would you recommend they budget for converting a vehicle and getting all the gear you need to flat tow?
Yeah, and when I give you a couple numbers here, obviously they're going to vary. It's going to depend on the labor rate where you're at, and I think the important thing to also remember is that each vehicle is just a little bit different. When we quote things, we always want to make sure you have everything to make the journey as easy as possible. So we make an accessory kit that's got locks included. It's got a tow bar cover, so that you got everything you need. Because the last thing we always want is you showing up to a campground seeing all these cool accessories that somebody else has and they didn't get offered to you. So that's important to us. So, if you're going to budget, I'm going to say you're going to be anywhere from like $5,000 to $7,000 in a full tow package with everything that you might need. And again, that's going to be dependent on the labor rates of where you're at when it gets installed, and all the different options in time. Our base plates take different time to get installed. And really it comes down to the front face of the vehicle need to be removed, and whatever electronics they might have in the front. So it really just depends on the installation, or the base plate is going to be the major part of it.
Is there any reason why somebody, obviously you're not going to be mixing brands of like a base plate and a tow bar, but is there any reason somebody can't mix brands with like the brake controller, for instance?
Yeah, you could certainly do that. And we make adapters for that as well. So, if you have a vehicle that has a base plate made by another manufacturer on it, but you want our tow bar, we can certainly make that happen, and vice versa. And there's a lot of different braking options out there. Our like I said before, our brake in the box or a Patriot brake system is removed in and out. There are companies that make brake systems that you can permanently mount in your vehicle. So yeah, you can certainly do that. What I would say is just make sure you're reading the owner's manuals and contacting those companies before you mix and match, just because there are some nuances. Like I mentioned before, our tow bars are a little bit longer than other tow bars. So that may affect some turn radius and different things. So just make sure that you contact us and the other manufacturer before proceeding forward, just to make sure that, we can make sure you have all the right equipment, the right adapters to make sure trip as enjoyable as possible.
Well, Blue Ox has been such a great supporter of RV Miles, and you guys are the experts on this. You have all sorts of options. Like you said, you can go to the Blue Ox website and look at the different packages for different vehicle makes and models. You also have a blog with a lot of information. Of course, you have towing supplies for all sorts of towing, whether you're towing a vehicle behind a motorhome, you're towing with a travel trailer or a fifth wheel. Blue Ox has it all. Thanks so much, Alex, for joining us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having us on.
A very big thank you to Alex Walker over at Blue Ox for joining Jason and educating us all, and especially us, on some things that we don't know in the RV world. So it was really great to welcome him to the show. So thank you so much, Alex. But now it's time to shift our focus. It's time to go and look at the level of those tanks. And as always, our Fresh Tank Black Tank is brought to you by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the no BS toilet treatment. You can find Liquefied over at liquefiedrv.com or on Amazon. And I just did all of that without messing up once. It only took
you do it a lot without messing up. You just don't realize it.
30 episodes for me to not have to check my notes on that one. Okay, I can learn new things. Jason, what is in your black tank this week?
This is an article from Backpacker Magazine. The U.S. Forest Service is they've initiated a hiring freeze, and for they hire a lot of seasonal workers, so there'll be a lot of seasonal workers potentially hired for next summer. They're on both a full-time hiring freeze and a part-time hiring freeze. Part-time hiring freeze is pretty much only broken by the firefighters that they hire every year, but they are going to be losing 2,400 jobs in the U.S. Forest Service next year, including most of their trail workers. So don't like that. Don't like that. Like the trails to get work done on them. But
I love a good, well-kept trail with markers that tell me where to go.
What's interesting to me about this too, though, is that, there was this big maintenance backlog that all of the different public lands agencies have still, and a lot of money was set aside by Congress for public lands to fix up some of that sort of stuff. And, they're supposed to be spending a lot of that money right now. And without the employees to do it, I'm wondering, I suppose that money will still be spent on like third-party contractors for contract work. But it looks like the Forest Service is going to be cutting a lot of seasonal workers next year. It'll be interesting to see if that feeds into campgrounds as well.
Yeah. So what's interesting too is I'm reading this article while you're talking, and it says, according to the Government Accountability Office, the Forest Service has had a maintenance backlog for more than a decade.
Yeah.
And it oversees more miles of trails than it can actually maintain. So we've had an issue with this now for some time. And if this goes forward and it really hits trail maintenance hard, this is not going to be great. It's not going to be great.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics behind it. You want to blame one administration or the other. A lot of it comes down to increased federal minimum wages, and so I think there's going to be. What the unfortunate thing to me with this is the maintenance backlog thing. When you don't have employees out there fixing the things, well, then 15 years down the road, it costs us a lot more because all the things need fixed again.
And I want to just remind people too, when we talk trail maintenance, I mean, are we talking like Appalachian Trail that's going to cross
Sure.
through. So we're talking about that. We're talking Pacific Crest Trail. I mean, so we're not just talking about like I'm hanging out in, Custer's, National Forest, and I'm going to go walk this trail from, my little dry camping spot that's like a mile loop, and I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
We are talking about major, really significant and important trails that have a strong history.
Yeah, those big trails come under the purview of the National Park Service, but where they go through Forest Service land, which is probably most of the actual trail length, they're being cared for by the Forest Service.
Yeah.
The Forest Service is weird because, all of the public lands agencies other than the Forest Service are under the Department of the Interior, but the U.S. Forest Service is under the Department of Agriculture. So there's always been this weird difference between Forest Service and all the rest of the land agencies. They do things a little bit differently. There's different rules when it comes to like discounts with the passes and all that sort of stuff. But so I don't think this is something that's going to be happening across all the other public land agencies, but it is happening across the Forest Service.
No, and it's a good reminder too that when we hear about budgets being made for the National Park Service, and when we hear about, an increase in those budgets, and we're putting more money towards our National Park Service, that money is not going towards the National Forest Service.
Yeah.
That is a completely separate department. And unless that department is the Department of Agriculture is getting more money and then they're allocating it to the Forest Service isn't necessarily, and I don't have their, 2023 and 2024 budget in front of me, but I would guess that they're not getting allocated the same kind of money that we're seeing the National Park Service get, which is still not nearly enough. Yeah.
I mean, they're not, what happens, budgets aren't getting made in Congress, right? We keep getting these continuing resolutions. So with inflation, things have gotten more expensive, right? And some agencies, and, some people think this is a good thing. Some agencies are not going to be getting the funding that they've requested or need, but that's going to be resulting in a loss of a heck of a lot of jobs. So that's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. All right. What is in your fresh tank this week?
My fresh tank is a company called Empowered. We've actually had them on the show before, and we have several of their lanterns. They're these really cool. They have different types, but they have these inflatable camping lanterns. They're Lucy lights. Yeah. And you blow into them and inflate them, and it becomes like it's almost like the whole thing of like putting a headlamp onto a milk jug and letting that like soft glow hit the whole campground. So they make those. They make some string lights that we have and love. They make some Bluetooth lights. Anyway, they've been bought by another company that we love called BioLite. So I think this is my fresh tank because I think this is a really good merger of companies. Not always is a merger or an acquisition is it that great of a thing, but in this case, I think these two companies complement each other very well. BioLite makes they make a lot of lighting products too, but they also make stoves, and they make interesting stoves that have a thermocoupler in them that powers off of fire. So essentially you've got a little camp stove that you can put twigs and pine cones and stuff in, and that be your fuel source. And the heat from that turns that into electricity that runs a fan that's in the little stove that helps the combustion. But then there's also a little USB port that you can plug a light to. You can charge your phone off of, that sort of thing. And they also make a really cool big fire pit. That BioLite fire pit we've been drooling over for many years now.
So much drool has been collected.
But they're both good companies, so check them out. I would imagine that the primary company, BioLite, is really going to be sort of just the maker of these Lucy Light products, and the name Empowered might go away. But great company. Check them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what's your black tank this week?
Okay, my black tank goes to ladybugs. Ladybugs, I don't know. Some people call them beetles.
Are they Asian beetles or ladybugs?
They're ladybugs. To me, they're ladybugs. They might be Asian beetles. Can we just humor me? We're going to call them ladybugs. Okay. I don't know what they're up to.
It's the orange ones though, right?
There were orange and red.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, look, ladybug like bugs. How about that? Do we all feel better with that?
I mean, they look identical, right? Except for their coloring.
Sure. Except for their coloring and, they're out of control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing all across social media right now, people just posting about them, posting about how many are coming into their rigs, how many they're capturing. There's an Instagram account called Chasing the Caches. They're a lot of fun. They're a great couple. And she had posted a reel about how she's been like this little contraption she has that she captures them. And she told me she had like 100. She had captured 100.
They seem to be attracted to white. So they attracted to the outside of the RV. At homecoming, there was a lot of them this year. And I don't remember them from last year.
Yeah, I don't remember them from last year. Now, we were told because it's been unseasonably warm in Amana this year. You know, when we were there the second week of October, we were hitting 80 degrees. Like that's very unusual for this area. By this time, we should be in the 60s and we should be enjoying a more traditional fall weather. Between the flies and the ladybugs, and towards the end of that week, I was like, give me these flies all day long. These ladybugs are out of control because they're so tiny and they get everywhere. And I don't doubt, like I've got some stuff to take over to the Ibex. I do not doubt
there's some in there,
that there are still some in there despite my very best efforts. And I don't like to kill them. I'm not trying to, like the flies. Look, I got no love for the flies. You're going to get swatted. I try to release the ladybugs, but if you accidentally ever crush one, that smell is horrendous.
No, the best way to get rid of them is to vacuum them up, I think.
Yes. Oh, I didn't tell you. I'll tell you this now. So the other day when I was at the gym and I was up on the second floor and I was walking the track. So at our gym on the second floor, there's a walking track that goes all the way around the building. So, or like half the building. So it goes through like the upper level of the basketball courts. And then you go back around to the gym fitness area. And I'm walking where the windows are that look out onto the forest. There were hundreds of ladybugs inside. And some were crushed on the walking. Ugh. It was so gross. And then as I'm walking, all of a sudden I see this woman who works there coming up there with a vacuum and she starts sucking them all up. And then it hits you, the smell. And you're just like, oh my God, these ladybugs are the worst. These ladybug-like bugs.
There's also another smell happening around here right now.
Oh, it smells like cattle.
That I think it's coming it has to do with the harvest and
it's so gross.
Scent being blown this direction somehow. But you know, the local Facebook groups everybody's talking about, there's a big scent happening in the air. I keep checking like my feet like I've stepped in some dog dew or something.
It's so not great.
Is this smell following me?
It's finally like you want to be outside. It's like today it's like 67 degrees. It's gorgeous. The sun is out. Yeah. All the trees are turning these spectacular, bursting with color. And you walk outside and you're like, oh, am I in Amarillo? Like what is happening? It's not great. It's not great.
All right. What is in your fresh tank this week?
You guys, the holiday blend is back. 'Tis the season. Let us rejoice. The Roastery, I got my email the other day. The Roastery has released its holiday blend coffee. If you have been listening to this podcast for years, then you know I wait all year long for this coffee to be released from the Roastery. It's a local roaster in Kansas City. They have started because it's gotten so popular, thanks to all of you who keep ordering it all over the country. They've been releasing it and doing like a Christmas in July. And we were traveling this year, so I didn't do it. I wanted to keep it special for like this time of year. And so I just put in my order for a 5-pound bag. It's going to be here by the time we get back from our little honeymoon weekend away. Not honeymoon, anniversary.
Anniversary. Big difference there.
I mean, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But if you are like me and you have started enjoying this coffee during the holiday season, it's so exciting. It's back. It's beautiful. I can't wait to get it. It's just, and this is when we can start having Baileys in the morning with our coffee. It's a whole thing.
Just replace the creamer.
We're done. We're done. Listen, there is a time of year where you know, or if it's not Bailey's, I mean, that salted caramel whiskey.
Okay, that's
I mean,
a lot. I mean,
maybe that's
with the Bailey's. It's like, ooh, we're being a little naughty, and like, okay, it's that little shot of Bailey's in your coffee, like a third of a shot.
Okay,
doing
Jace,
anything to you, but the whiskey,
this salted caramel whiskey, the one that we have, the Old Smoky.
Yeah,
I would argue that it's not as like
yes
potent as, but I don't know.
No,
oh, is it?
It is.
Oh, is it?
You
okay.
Be careful with that stuff. Just because it's sweet and tasty doesn't mean it's not potent.
Okay, we can't put that in our coffee in the mornings then, but we can put our Baileys. We can put our little teaspoon of Baileys in our coffee in the morning. So it is out now. You can go, just go over to the Roastery's website, order it up, get yourself some holiday blend. It's delightful. You're absolutely going to enjoy it. It also makes such a lovely gift for the RV coffee drinker in your life.
That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have just one more ask before you go. If you are enjoying RV Miles, be that the audio version that you're listening on your podcast app, or maybe you're watching us here on YouTube, would you share maybe one of your favorite episodes with friends, family, some people you meet at the campground, maybe on your social media? Just go ahead and say, hey, this is a great show that I'm enjoying and I think you would enjoy it too. That kind of like just simple 30-second click, copy, drop, share. That makes such a huge difference for us here at RV Miles. It helps us reach a new audience, which helps bring in more people to the community, and it gives us the opportunity to talk to more of you out there. So if you can do that, we would really appreciate it. And until next week, friends, stay healthy, go order that holiday blend. It's okay if you put a little bit of Bailey's in it, just no whiskey, apparently, no whiskey.
Just not first thing in the morning. I mean, you just
6:30 a.m. I mean, I don't know, but hey, look, you do you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.